Color is everywhere we go. We are so savvy as homeowners today because we experience design and color with everything we purchase, from a toothbrush to a sofa, from a wastebasket to a car. Everything is high design. Even the small little cars have high design inside. The small little Ford Focus has more design in the interior of the car than the Mercedes did 20 years ago. So we are looking at high design everywhere we go. When we walk in, when you see that Walmart took out an 8-page spread in Vogue for the second year in a row, you know you've crossed boundaries. Everybody's experiencing color and design in a whole new way. And the senses, whenever you're thinking of creating an atmosphere in your home, when you walk into a space that gets the color right, you just feel different. You feel better. I just read an article in the New York Times that was in this weekend, and they were talking about red and blue. And they were saying how red stimulates. That's why most restaurants are painted red or orange or yellow. Those colors stimulate your appetite, whereas blue decreases your appetite, but it also makes you more creative. Like a blue color calms you down and can make you more creative. So they did an experiment with architects and designers. They had them do 2 different bar settings. One they painted red and one they painted blue. More people went into the red bar area and were very vibrant and chatty and talking. The people that went into the blue bar sat down and stayed there a lot longer and had longer conversations. So it's just interesting the way color can transform just a simple thing like color. Both places were exactly designed the same, just color was different. So we know the world through our senses, so you can create this atmosphere. Starbucks was the king of this. They engaged all 5 senses when you walk into their store. They call it their design language. So you smell the coffee, you taste the coffee, you hear the music playing, you see the color on the wall, and you feel the fabric on the sofa and the chairs. All 5 senses are engaged. So when you plop down at $3.50 for a cup of coffee, which really costs 50 cents, you are buying the experience, not just the coffee. And they've created, your shoulders just naturally relax when you walk in there. They've created this whole space. And you can do that in the same way, it's the same way in your home too. So I wanted to show you a little bit about how color can change everything. This is a hacienda project in Texas that was done for one of a customer with one of our designers. And so here's the before and here's the after. And I'll show you them right next to each other. But just look at how just adding color to the wall and a little bit of lighting changed this completely. When we look to develop our trends, we look at a lot of research to determine, because you influence trends as much as trends influence you. In order for you to connect to the colors every year, we have to know about you. We have to know about your memories, your experiences right now. We have to know what's going on in the world. 4 years ago, when soft pink, anchored with chocolate brown, was very, very popular. Soft pink is a compassionate color. It was right after 9/11 in the war. Everyone wanted to feel compassionate. That color everybody gravitated to. That soft pink has now shifted to a much more bold pink. But all those things have an effect on which colors we connect to each year. So we take a look at people. This is our whole generation here. And it's always interesting. We always talk about the boomers being big. You know, 76 million baby boomers. And baby boomers are always, because they're redefining the world. They redefined retirement. They did everything in the 60s. We're not going to say everything they did in the 60s, but they just did a lot. But look how big Generation Y is, too. So Generation Y is almost just as big as the boomers. They are big for trends. So digital generation is 4-year-old to 13-year-olds. They're all about discovery. Experience, interactive, they're very intuitive. They can read and look at logos. They can navigate a computer before they can read. Very nonlinear. Generation Y, 14 to 32. They call this generation, that's a big span when you think about it. That's the generation they're calling failure to launch. These are the kids that grew up with Enron, 9/11. A lot of terrible things happened at a key point in their life. So when they're graduating from college, they're not as certain to move out any longer and go get their jobs and start their lives. They'd rather move home for a while, get a little more settled, be a little more secure before they venture out. So they're just a little more fearful than when we graduated. So that's Generation Y. But they're all about color. They haven't seen that avocado green that came out in the 70s, so it's fresh and new to them. So you mix it up with a couple new colors, and so they become they are all about expressing these brand new colors. I love the bright greens this year. Gen X, 33 to 43. These are the ones that said, you know, look, I used to be really hip and cool and fun in my 20s before I had a minivan and a mortgage and 2 kids. So now I have a family that I need to support and that I need to work and balance work and life. But they're a very skeptical consumer. They grew up with money, so they want high design, but they don't have a lot of money at this point in their lives. So they're what we call the target generation. Like they want that high design, but they don't want to pay for it. So we call them the skeptical consumer. Gen X. The boomers. We know all about the boomers. They're very philosophical. They say that you don't reach your philosophical wisdom until you're age 50. They're all about, they're educated, they've been through the workforce, they have a ton of money, they spend a lot more on their second house than they did on their first house. This group is about color as well. They're more willing to try color now, you know, to give it a shot. They're powerful, powerful consumers and about experience. So they'd rather go to Tuscany and learn how to cook than to lay on a beach all day. They want to do something, and they are reinventing retirement. I mean, this group was constantly initiating change. Prime timers. People want to stay in their houses longer, so they're looking for technology and products to keep them in their homes. Appliance makers, kitchen appliance makers are going through entire research, a lot of research that they're working on developing appliances that are lower for the aging population. Again, boomers are forcing this as well. Looking for numbers to be larger, looking for interactive ways for people to use their appliances. If people forget what they're supposed to do, there's some research that was just done by a professor at Carnegie Mellon, where he did people in their 70s that were living by themselves in their homes still, and they were saying, how do you work your oven? Like, how do you work your oven? And they would say, well, and they would forget. Like, they would forget the process. And they said, well, we burn a lot of food. And so it was like very clear to them that they needed something just for those days that they just couldn't remember, to tell them, here are the steps to do it. So little things like that. A lot of things are happening in design that way as well. All right, so we look at the demographic audience, so we understand where you come from and a little bit about what you're about. And then we look at society. What's society thinking about right now? And right now it is a time of worry. There's a lot of things going on in the world, the economy, the wars, and of course the environment. The environment is one of the key features in our trends for this year, Eco-Eco, because it's all about, you know, what are we doing to sustain the environment? We have to be more conscious of that. So you're seeing rock stars driving hybrids, or no longer, you know, driving huge cars, and they're just trying to make green be more glamorous. Green is not a trend, it's a movement, it's here to stay, it's not leaving. You don't have to compromise quality for green anymore with flooring and paints and everything, so everybody can go green if they want to. These are just some examples that I pulled up real quickly for you, some commercial examples. This is vertical landscaping done on a building in Japan. So it helps to keep the building cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And it's really beautiful. It's very beautiful. This is in San Francisco, the Academy of Sciences on the roof. This is an anthropology store in Alabama. We're still trying to figure out where the door is. We don't know how to get in. But again, just something creative, something green, to add more green to all the cement out there. Wind power is huge, huge in Europe. It's going to be way big here soon. We're going to see a lot more of this coming our way. Residential applications for it, where it can actually attach to a residential house and for energy and power, as well as huge commercial buildings. This little Katrina cottage, it was designed by an architect in Denver. Everybody's moving from the McMansions down to smaller footprints, but they don't want to compromise quality. So if they're going to go small, which is great, they still want the high design in these things. So they developed this to build thousands of these in the Katrina ravaged areas. And now these have just exploded like crazy. People really love these little cottages. And inside they're very simple, but it's very nice design.